Right now, I'm shaking. And I'm shaking because I'm scared. But I'm not scared for myself. Quite honestly, I'm scared for all of the people shorting Bitcoin right now. All of the people hoping for a massive dumpathon. All of the people who are about to get absolutely giga-banged. And what if I told you it's gonna happen sooner than you might think? Right now, Bitcoin is closer than ever to the true beginning of the most violent upside bustulation that we've seen since the last bull market. But I have an eensy-weensy-teensy feeling that this time might be bigger than the last. So if you're scared that all of the people in your life that are short on Bitcoin are about to get completely banged, giga-banged even, hit that like, hit that subscribe, get signed up to FAKEOUT or BINGX below if you buy Bitcoin or altcoins. Join my Crypto Red Alerts channel to have a chance 3 times a day to win free PT. And without any further ado, let's absolutely look at what's happening. You might be watching this video thinking, wait, what does this guy mean? What do you mean he's scared that the bears are about to get giga-banged? What could he possibly mean by that? Well, let's take a little trip down memory lane and look at the total 3 chart, for example, where I think more than ever, last cycle created a very specific type of person. Last cycle created the absolute degenerate meme coin, altcoin moon boy, right? Every cycle except I think 2020 and 2021 were the first cycle where a lot of crypto traders and a lot of people in this space just went full-on altcoin mode, full-on degenerate, $100 million market cap, $10 million market cap, $1 million market cap, just complete degeneracy. Why? Because they understood that even though it's incredibly risky, if you want to turn $1,000 into like 100,000 or more, you're probably not going to do that with Bitcoin. Okay, and it absolutely, I believe last cycle was the first one. In fact, I know it was. I've been in this space for a while, and I also am very tuned into the content that's popular and the content that's created and the content that people consume, gobble up. And one thing I've noticed over the past 4 months more than ever is like almost everybody, every single day is posting here are my top altcoin picks. Here's these coins are going to 100x. Basically just almost everyone is creating videos, and that's the content that gets like the most views. People really want to gamble on the garbage, right? It's called garbage gambling, basically. That's what I call it, garbage gambling. And that's not going to change, I don't think. The bigger the space gets, I think that I don't want to say that you'll have to get banged and you'll understand that at least you should have a portion of your portfolio in Bitcoin. This is the entire altcoin chart. It excludes Bitcoin, it excludes Ethereum, and it shows the altcoin space. And quite honestly, that group that I was just talking about, like degenerate gamblers, all of that, I want to say something. I think those people are about to make a ton of money. I think those people are about to experience the most euphoric, most money-making part of the cycle. In fact, I'm one of those people too, right? I have, I don't even know how many cryptos I have, but I have some garbage ones. So I'm going to be making a lot of money too if that happens. I'm not saying I'm not one of those people. We look at the entire altcoin market cap chart. We see this cross that we pointed out back at the beginning of March, so about a little over a month ago. I think that this is exactly where we're at right now. If we would compare, we are right in this like sideways level. I think this cycle is a little bit accelerated. We have clearly seen all of these signs happen before the Bitcoin halving for the first time ever. We've put in a new all-time high before the Bitcoin halving for the first time ever. So in a way, I don't think everything is different about this cycle, but there are absolutely things about this cycle that are different. And that's not a bad thing. People will say, oh, this time's not different. It's not. I mean, largely, I don't think it is different. But in a different way, I think there are some pretty big differences. Or in a unique way, there's definitely some big differences. Aside from the fact of Bitcoin hitting this all-time high and all of these signals, even on other coins, not just Bitcoin, showing us that, hey, we're about to lift off earlier than we should be expecting, maybe. In my opinion, in my strong opinion, I think we're about to see liftoff very soon for the entire altcoin market. We look at the entire altcoin space, so it's just minus Bitcoin, but it includes Ethereum. We're trading basically at the last resistances. It was previous support in the last bull market, but the very last resistances of of this chart, sitting right at about 1.1 trillion. I think liftoff really begins around 1.25 trillion. So, not that much more. Not that much more, and I think we're going to start lifting off soon for the entire altcoin space. Bitcoin itself right now on the daily chart, you can see it on the 4-hour chart, is trading, and we've been following this for well over a week now. A very clear symmetrical triangle. Looks identical to typical bull flag or a symmetrical triangle, especially in an uptrend. You guys see what is more likely. It is more likely Bitcoin's about to break to the upside. But one thing I actually want to point out about this is that very often with the symmetrical triangle pattern, at least that I've noticed for like the past 8 years, is that often what happens with this pattern actually is a dramatic move the opposite direction before the true breakout. So what I'm saying with this pattern here, it looks like it's actually going to be completing within the next 10 or so days, which pretty much almost puts us right at the Bitcoin halving, which is crazy. We could actually see this breakout leading up to the Bitcoin halving for the first time ever, right? Instead of after. I think this pattern, I think Bitcoin is going to be above 80,000 before April ends, which is also an anomaly if you're talking about the Bitcoin cycle and when we should be having a big breakout. Again, I think the cycle is a little bit accelerated. I think it's a little left translated. But with this, I think it's really important to note, I don't think we have to, but very often with this pattern specifically, what I've noticed is that very often we will get a dramatic move one direction that ends up not being the direction it ultimately breaks out in, and it fakes a lot of people out, and a lot of people get banged on that trade, right? I mean, that's why you got to wait for confirmations kind of. But let's say over the next couple of days, maybe we actually initiate it, we start to break down out of this, and then a couple days later, we actually, do something like that. All I'm saying is that is usually it's what people are least expecting, and that's why I think it happens so often, because most of the time people don't expect that it's going to be a fake out within a pattern. But very often with symmetrical triangles, you gotta be careful. So just like a word of warning first, if this upcoming week we have a breakdown and then we quickly accelerate the other direction, don't say I didn't tell you, because again, it's just something I've noticed over the past many years, especially with that pattern specifically. But weekly chart for Bitcoin, if this candle closes in just about 24 hours like this, that's a relatively nice buy up, right? It's a nice sized wick. This could end up being even less of a wick, more of a wick, less of a candle, and even be even somewhat of a better close. But ultimately, I think we're just going to start drifting up over the next few weeks. The Bollinger Bands are they're still tightening. They're still very, very tight, and we have not had a significant move. They've actually gotten tighter since we had the move from about 71,000 to about 64,000. So there was that decent drop, over $5,000 drop, actually like $7,000 drop, and the Bollinger Bands are still incredibly tight. Right now in the daily chart, Bitcoin is actually holding on the 21-day moving average. If we zoom in really close, you can see we're actually sitting right on the 21-day moving average, which is interesting to me. We have cooled off a decent amount on the daily chart. And if we look at the weekly even for Bitcoin, this could I'm not seeing really much on the weekly chart. It looks rather neutral. I think it could go either way on the weekly chart. But ultimately, I think that the next big move for Bitcoin looks likely to be up. But I personally think I just think it's really important to expect some kind of fake out before we see that. I don't think it's going to be just sunshine, lollipops, and rainbows for the next couple of days, and then we start breaking out, and everyone celebrates, and everyone is super profitable on their long positions, right? That's never the case. What's most likely the case is a lot of people are going to get absolutely banged, and then maybe Bitcoin will start heading up, and a lot of people were like, dang, I was in a trade, and then I got banged, and I got, I sold, or I got stopped out, and I got shaken out of my position, which is literally what happens in crypto. Volatility is the name of the game, absolutely. The stock market today too is something I'm really curious to see when we open up in this new week in 2 days, because the narrative around rate cuts maybe even not happening this year is kind of growing, whereas the economy seems strong enough to people think that, hey, we'll probably just keep these rates higher for longer, because let's be honest, there is a risk to cutting rates too soon. We risk inflation rising again and having to pivot and start raising interest rates again, which is something we don't want to do. So if the economy can remain stable where it's at, the rates are probably going to stay where they're at. which means maybe we won't see rate cuts. The stock market is trying to price that in, which is why it's been kind of shaky a little bit over the past couple trading sessions. But I personally think that overall liquidity is going to start ramping up, and overall I think Bitcoin is going to start moving up regardless. I think the Bitcoin bull market is going to go as intended, and basically if we do end up getting rate cuts, that can only be good also for Bitcoin. So, but I don't think Bitcoin needs rate cuts to start exploding. Quite clearly, I think that there's a strong case, and it's kind of obvious why I don't think we need them. But yeah, on the 4-hour chart with Bitcoin, this is such a beautiful structure of this pattern. Looks really good. I would really just caution people that if we do get a fake out to the downside first, I mean, my honest opinion, which is just an opinion, so what I'm about to say is basically meaningless, I guess. I personally think we will get a dump first. I just think that's just my opinion. Absolutely. What am I basing that on? Just my own experience, which is why I'm saying it's irrelevant. It's not that important. But if I would be looking at that chart, I'd be thinking, hey, you know what? Before we start breaking up, I think we're gonna have we're gonna get people get faked out, and we're gonna get dumped on first. And get signed up to FEMEX or BINGX below if you know buy Bitcoin or altcoins. Without further ado, that's it for me.